Drawing parallels, Weinfeld highlighted the similarities between the land promises given to the biblical figures like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and those given to heroes like Heracles and Aeneas. The stories of these patriarchs served as a prelude to the foundation of the Israelite nation by Moses and Joshua. Similarly, Greek tales about ancient heroes and foundational ancestors provided a historical context for subsequent movements and conquests. The Israelites' journey and settlement into the Promised Land mirrors Greek myths like the return of the Heraclids, usually foundation stories, which explain how a group settled in a new territory, begin by detailing the problems that made them leave their original home. These issues could be overpopulation, famine, disease outbreaks, natural disasters, economic problems, internal conflicts, forced exile, military defeats, or escaping potential conquest and enslavement. In one ancient Jewish story written by Hecataeus of Abdera, around 315 BCE, it's said that Egypt became overpopulated, leading the Egyptians to send settlers to places including Babylon and Judea. Another tale from Manetho, written around 285 BCE, claims that Jerusalem and Judea were first inhabited by the Hyksos, foreign rulers who took over Egypt, but were later forced out by the Egyptians due to a disease outbreak linked to the Hyksos' ungodly practices. In contrast, the biblical Exodus story, written around 270 BCE, presents a different viewpoint. The Egyptians faced plagues as punishment for enslaving the Israelites, and only after suffering these calamities did the Pharaoh let them go. This narrative of escaping from bondage fits the pattern of Hellenistic foundation stories and is a consistent theme in biblical tales. The well-known practice of the Egyptians using slave labor for grand projects such as building pyramids reinforces this narrative. While the miraculous rescue of the Israelites is unique to the biblical account, their quest for freedom aligns well with Greek tales. A pivotal moment in the Exodus story is when God chooses Moses to be the liberator and guide for the Jewish people. This revelation occurs when Moses, in exile from Egypt, discovers a holy site in the Sinai desert. God informs him that he has been chosen to lead the Israelites out of Egypt to a new homeland with Aaron's assistance. Although hesitant and unsure, Moses accepts this significant responsibility. In the biblical story, Moses' divine selection to lead mirrored a common trend seen in Greek foundation tales. Typically in these tales, an oracle, usually at the famed Delphi sanctuary dedicated to Apollo, would choose the leader, termed oikist, for a colonization mission. This oikist held various roles: expedition head, military leader, spiritual guide, and law enforcer. It was a reoccurring theme for these leaders to be unexpectedly chosen. Guidance for their journey, including specific landmarks and signs to determine settlement areas, often came from the Delphi oracle. On some journeys, a prophet or spiritual guide accompanied the leader, aiding in establishing the new settlement. The biblical account showcases the Israelites as an organized, armed group, constantly prepared for battle as they journeyed from Egypt. Moses was their military strategist, but their triumphs, whether in battle against various tribes or major exodus from Egypt, were attributed to the divine intervention of Yahweh. This description of the Exodus sets the stage for the next phase, the conquest, where Joshua takes over Moses' military role. Throughout these narratives, the main emphasis is on the armed men. Women, children, and livestock are seen as under their protection, while the fighters are the focus of accounts and are explicitly numbered. The portrayal of this migration, then, is of an armed group transitioning from one territory to conquer another. This depiction aligns with Greek tales, where colonization parties often journeyed as armed contingents. It's at Delphi that Apollo, recognized as the god guiding migrations and settlements, was consulted. In the Bible, Mount Sinai serves as the pivotal spot where God communicates with Moses. This return to Sinai in the Exodus narrative is the backdrop for the profound moment where Moses climbs the mountain and receives God's commandments. In Greek tales, the leader often revisits the Delphi oracle for advice on pressing issues. This trip back to the oracle sometimes left the expedition group alone for extended times, akin to Moses' 40-day stay on the mountain. Moses, as the lawgiver, fits seamlessly within the Greek narrative structure. In Greek tales, the oikist typically established laws for the new settlement. Historical accounts and legends often credit ancient law codes to singular prominent figures, such as Lycurgus or Solon, who sometimes were believed to have received these laws directly from deities. Established processes even allowed for proposed law codes to be presented at an oracle, like Delphi, to gain divine approval. While Greek narratives often depict lawgivers getting divine laws via specific ceremonial methods, the Bible portrays Moses directly meeting God at Sinai amid an awe-inspiring natural display. At Mount Sinai, Moses supervised the creation of a special tent and its items. This tent wasn't just a place of worship, but was believed to be the dwelling place of God. As the Israelites traveled through the wilderness, God was thought to accompany them within this tent. Moses was the main spiritual leader for the Israelites during their journey, much like the oikist in Greek stories. The oikist was also a religious leader, representing the god Apollo during their colonization missions. When the Greeks ventured into new territories, they believed they were also relocating their gods. A sacred fire symbolized this move, which they used for religious rituals during the journey. Apollo's famous sanctuary in Delphi often gave them guidance on where to settle and build their new sanctuaries. In the Bible, before entering their desired land, the Israelites sent scouts to check it out. However, they were disheartened by the challenges they'd face in conquering it. As a result, they spent 40 years wandering, during which the entire soldier generation died. Similarly, in some Greek tales, explorers were sent first to assess new lands. These colonization efforts, whether in myth or real history, often faced challenges. They might take much longer than expected, sometimes spanning several generations. There were times when the settlers even thought of going back to their original homeland due to homesickness or settlement challenges. Both the biblical account and Greek tales emphasized the importance of establishing foundational laws and systems for their new societies. For Israelites, after their 40-year journey, there was a renewed emphasis on the laws, particularly in the book of Deuteronomy. This highlighted how they should live once they settled. All these guidelines were officially approved by the community and were meant to be publicly displayed in their new homeland. Similarly, when Joshua took the people across the Jordan, he quickly set up an altar and inscribed these laws, ensuring they were practiced. Like in the Bible, Greek colonization stories also focused on establishing foundational laws for their new territories. The leader, or oikist, who was similar to Moses, set these laws. The oikist laid down rules about political, religious, and military structures, the society's class system, land distribution, and citizens' rights. Just as in the biblical narrative, these laws were approved by the community, usually with rituals and oaths. Often these guidelines were inscribed on stone tablets for everyone to see. When the Israelites reached the Promised Land, they were coming back to the original home of their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This story reminds us of the return of the Heraclids in Greek tales. In both stories, a divine command encouraged the takeover of the local people. Similarly, the journey of Joshua in conquering part of the Promised Land matches Greek stories about the founding of new colonies. In both the Bible and Greek tales, the deity presents the land as a gift. The conquering colonizers believed they were not just allowed, but obligated to take over. Most of the time, the native people were either defeated and enslaved or forced to move. Sometimes the takeover was explained with a moral reason, adding it to the legend. The oikist, or colony leader, often became a revered hero due to his military leadership, but starting a colony wasn't always smooth. The newcomers often faced challenges from locals, which sometimes made the Greeks rethink or give up their plans. Just like how the Greeks felt shame for not taking over the lands given by their god Apollo's oracle, the Israelites were also criticized in the book of Judges for not fully conquering their promised land.